You can feel it in your spirit. Something has broken. A heavy presence that used to linger in the background has suddenly dissolved. And as strange as it sounds, this isn't just relief, it's revelation. A spiritual containment, placed around your essence by those who feared it, has shattered. The spell was subtle, built through projections, silence, envy wrapped in politeness. But it was real, and it kept you from stepping fully into the brilliance of your own divine fire. But now, that fire is out. It's moving, and they can no longer pretend they don't feel the burn. You crossed the threshold. You're no longer waiting to be validated by anyone. You walk in your native frequency now, the original soul code God placed within you before the world taught you to dim it. And here's the twist. The moment you stopped seeking approval, they started seeking you. Not because they suddenly love you, but because the illusion they created to contain their obsession with your light has crumbled. What they used to hide behind, indifference, arrogance, logic, is now burning away. And what's left is raw, spiritual hunger. And you'll see it in their eyes, in their energy, in the way they try to find you again. Online, in person, or in your dreams, the same people who tried to suppress your glow are now intoxicated by it. Spirit says, don't be surprised if the ones who disappeared start showing up, not with words, but with obsession. If you feel this truth already stirring inside you, drop a declaration in the comments right now. The spell is broken. And please, tap the like, hit subscribe, and turn on notifications, so these revelations find you the moment they're released. They never truly wanted your absence. They wanted your submission. What they couldn't possess, they tried to contain. Not with love, not with honesty, but with confusion, charm, and energy games that kept you doubting your own value. Some of them literally crafted energetic spells through words, rituals, or silent manipulations designed to suppress your growth. But most didn't even know what they were doing. They just felt threatened. You carried something they didn't understand, a divine frequency that demanded transformation. And rather than evolve, they tried to mute the sound of your soul. What made you too much for them was exactly what made you untouchable. Your light, your voice, your calling. It activated their hidden wounds, and instead of facing their own brokenness, they made you feel like you were the problem. That was the containment. Not physical walls, but emotional distortion, spiritual confusion, psychic interference. They wanted the fire, but not the cost of carrying it. So they tried to steal the flame without facing the purification. And now, the flame has turned against them. The energy they manipulated is spiraling out of their control, and you've become the mirror they can't escape. There's a strange silence in the spirit realm right now, but underneath, it's chaos. Because those who once pretended to be unaffected by your glow are now unraveling. They feel exposed. Their tricks don't work anymore. The mask of indifference they wore so well is melting. You may even feel their presence, circling, dreaming of you, looking for you in places they swore they'd never go. They are magnetized now, not to your appearance, not to your kindness, but to the raw authority in your spirit. The containment broke, and the obsession they buried is now bleeding through. And the more you remain calm, detached, and aligned, the more desperate they become. Because for the first time, you're not reaching back, you're not reacting, you're not available in the way you once were, and that is what's destroying them. See, their power over you only worked when you were confused. But now that you know the truth, now that you walk in it, the game is over. They're starving for access to a version of you that no longer exists. And the version that's here now? It doesn't tolerate manipulation. It moves with discernment. It chooses with clarity. Some of these people won't say a word. They'll disappear quietly, unable to face the exposure. But some will try to come back. Not with apologies, not with redemption, but with energetic pursuit. They'll linger in your digital space. They'll show up near your friends. They'll try to be around you, just close enough to feel your warmth, hoping to satisfy the craving without doing the inner work. But it won't work, because your energy is no longer broadcasting in the frequency of availability. You've been sealed off by the divine, and what they rejected before is now hidden from them. And yet, here's the spiritual paradox. Some of them look brighter than ever. You may have seen it. During the time they were distorting your field, they appeared to be thriving, getting attention, opportunities, even glowing. But what you were witnessing wasn't growth. It was borrowed light. They were feeding off the power that was meant for your path. And now that the connection has been cut, everything they built on your stolen essence is collapsing. Slowly, quietly, sometimes violently. And they don't even understand why. But you do. That's why your presence feels different now. You've reclaimed something sacred. A frequency that used to leak through your wounds is now aligned and protected. And what once drew users, manipulators, and opportunists now repels them or exposes them. People who once seemed confident now stumble in your presence. People who once dismissed you now can't stop watching. Not because they want to heal, but because they're haunted by what they lost. And Spirit is saying, they didn't lose you. They lost access to the part of themselves they refused to awaken when you offered them light. It's not that they didn't see your light. It's that they saw it too clearly. So clearly, in fact, that it exposed everything they were trying to keep hidden within themselves. Your energy illuminated their shadows, their fear of unworthiness, their unresolved guilt. And instead of surrendering to the healing, they tried to make you question your own power. They mirrored your greatness back to you in distorted forms, hoping you would internalize the lie and shrink. But the truth refused to stay buried. Your soul kept whispering to you even in the darkest nights, reminding you, you are not too much. They were simply unprepared. This is what made your presence feel threatening. Not because you attacked, not because you demanded anything, but because your very being forced others to confront their spiritual stagnation. And so, they chose the illusion over the invitation. They convinced themselves that if they ignored you, mocked you, rejected you, they could escape the calling your energy placed on their lives. But spiritual law doesn't work that way. What is avoided must eventually be confronted. And now, they're being forced to face what they buried, not by your hands, but by the collapse of their own deception. You'll notice how the tables have turned without you lifting a single finger. The people who once tried to appear above you now spiral beneath the weight of their own guilt and unprocessed longing. You don't even need to say a word. Your absence says everything. It speaks of elevation, of divine selection, of freedom, and they feel it. Every time they think of you, there's a sting. Not because you harmed them, but because they know, deep down, they misused access to a sacred soul. And that opportunity, once missed, does not come back the same. You've changed. And heaven has marked that change. Some of them are still trying to replicate your frequency, studying your words, mimicking your path, chasing a version of light they once tried to dim. But it doesn't work, because what was once given freely is now guarded by fire. And what they're trying to imitate isn't aesthetic, it's anointing, it's covenant, it's the kind of glow that comes from obedience, from brokenness, from walking through the valley with God and choosing to rise without bitterness. That kind of light cannot be stolen, copied, or bypassed. It's spiritual, and that's why they're failing, over and over again. Others are still in denial. They pretend not to care. They act as though your name has no meaning to them. But you can feel it. The energy doesn't lie. There's an agitation in their spirit, a tension that wasn't there before. When your name comes up, the air changes. When your face crosses their mind, their chest tightens. Because the more they try to forget you, the more their spirit remembers what it lost. Not just a person, but an encounter with the divine through you. That's what they miss, and that's why they're haunted. Not by your rejection, but by their own refusal to surrender when grace was near. You see, when God sends a soul like yours into someone's life, it's never casual. You weren't just a lesson. You were a bridge, a mirror, a chance, a divine interruption designed to awaken something dormant in them. And they treated it like entertainment, or worse, like competition. But God does not waste the presence of His vessels. And so now, they're reaping the consequence of dishonoring the sacred. Their dreams are disturbed, their emotions are raw, their false identities are cracking, and everywhere they turn, something reminds them of you. That's not coincidence. It's divine accountability. And here's the truth that hits the hardest. Even if they ran back to you today, they wouldn't find the same version of you waiting, because that version no longer exists. The old you, the one who tolerated disrespect, who questioned your worth, who stayed silent to avoid conflict, is gone, buried in the fire you had to walk through to reclaim your soul. And what remains is someone they never truly knew, but always feared would emerge. The real you, the one they tried to delay, the one they couldn't handle then and still can't face now. This is why some of them are chasing echoes. They show up in places you once went, scroll through your old posts, listen to the words you once spoke like they're trying to resurrect something that no longer breathes. But what they're really looking for isn't you. It's the access they lost. They miss the version of themselves that felt powerful when standing next to your light. You elevated their presence without them having to do the inner work. And now, stripped of your energy, they feel ordinary, exposed, spiritually bankrupt. And instead of humbling themselves, they double down on the illusion, not realizing the real version of you is no longer in their reach. Others may try to enter your life again through new masks, new names, new faces, new stories, but the spirit behind them is the same. This is the test. You'll begin to feel familiar energy in unfamiliar people, the same manipulative charm, the same passive-aggressive admiration, the same hunger disguised as romance, mentorship, or friendship. But this time, you'll catch it. You've grown too much to fall for recycled tactics. And when you reject them, calmly, silently, without bitterness, they'll feel something break inside. Not because you were cruel, but because they finally see you were never confused. You were just becoming. The containment wasn't just about control, it was about delay. As long as they kept you doubting, they could outrun their own transformation. But the moment you aligned, the entire structure fell apart. And now, they're not just facing your absence. They're facing the consequences of every lie they believed about you. They told themselves you were dramatic, too sensitive, unstable, when in truth, you were discerning, spiritually aware, and deeply connected to the divine. And now, the pain they feel isn't punishment, it's revelation. The mirror no longer bends. It reflects the truth in full. And some of them will spiral, not because they're evil, but because they were never taught how to handle conviction. Your light doesn't judge, but it reveals. And revelation demands response. But they weren't ready, so they chose retreat. And now that your glow has intensified, retreat turns to torment. They stalk in silence. They obsess in shadows. They ask about you in rooms they swore they'd never mention your name, because your evolution has made them realize they didn't just lose access, they lost their illusion of power, and they have nothing left to project onto you. You may begin to notice a strange reversal happening. The very people who once seemed to hold authority now stumble when you enter the room. The ones who once held your heart in uncertainty now look at you with panic, as if seeing a ghost. And in a way, they are. Not because you died, but because you resurrected, and they are mourning the version of you they once manipulated because they can feel it's gone forever. You no longer match the role they assigned you, and without that role, they don't know how to define themselves. That's the terror they can't explain and won't admit. This is the spiritual justice no one talks about. It's not always fire and brimstone. Sometimes it's silence. Sometimes it's the haunting reality of losing something you didn't know you needed until it's gone. God didn't punish them. He revealed you, and in doing so, He revealed them to themselves. That's why they can't escape, because everywhere they go, they carry the weight of what they missed, what they mocked, what they mishandled, and deep in their spirit, they know this was never just about attraction or connection. It was about assignment. They were meant to grow, and they chose to run. And you stayed. You stayed through the confusion, the gaslighting, the isolation. You stayed with God. You faced your shadows. You did the work. You cried, prayed, surrendered, and now you rise. Not with arrogance, but with clarity. Not with revenge, but with peace. You don't need to prove anything. Your life speaks. Your presence convicts. Your alignment terrifies the ones who thought you'd never make it through. But here you are, not just surviving, but glowing with a light they can no longer touch. That's the real breakthrough. That's the reward they never saw coming. You see, what they feared was never your words, your choices, or even your presence. What they feared was your awareness. Because the moment you became conscious of what you carried, of the authority, the purity, the divine intelligence in your being, they could no longer control the narrative. Their only power was in your confusion. As long as you questioned yourself, they could shape how others perceived you. But now, that illusion is gone. You speak less, but you radiate more. You explain less, but your energy commands the room. And those who once misunderstood you now sit in silence, knowing deep down they were never equipped to handle the truth of who you are. There's a sacred rage building in the spirit, not anger for revenge, but righteous clarity. You look back and realize how much of your light was dimmed in the name of peace, how much of your essence was diluted to make others comfortable. And yet, the moment you withdrew your light, the world around them began to dim. They thought you were replaceable, until the replacement started collapsing. They thought they could replicate your energy, until the copies began to crack. Because what you carried wasn't charisma. It was covenant. It wasn't charm. It was calling. And heaven is making sure they feel the difference now. Don't be surprised if you start sensing spiritual activity intensifying around you. You've become magnetic, not because you're trying to attract, but because your alignment is undeniable. You walk into rooms and shift atmospheres without effort. People feel exposed just by standing near you. And those who once underestimated you now replay every moment they shared with you, realizing too late that you were a doorway. Some will try to come close again, pretending to be healed, pretending to be ready. But you'll know, your discernment isn't emotional anymore. It's prophetic, and that knowing will guide you through the noise. You'll begin to feel a strange mix of grief and relief. Grief for what could have been, the friendships, the alliances, the shared missions that were aborted because of fear, pride, or sabotage. But also relief, because you finally understand. None of it was ever yours to carry alone. You were sent to awaken something, not to drag others into their breakthrough. And now that you've released the weight of trying to save people who didn't want to be saved, you're lighter, freer, sharper. And that clarity is a gift no one can steal from you again. Not with guilt, not with pity, not with nostalgia. Those who walk away from their divine assignment always pay a price. Not because God is cruel, but because grace isn't cheap. You were the answer to prayers they didn't even have the courage to pray. You were the connection that could have changed everything, but they chose their ego over elevation. And now, they carry a silent regret that won't leave them. They may still smile. They may still succeed in the eyes of the world. But spiritually, they're starving. Because nothing compares to being in alignment with what heaven designed for you. And they know, whether they admit it or not, that they walked away from a divine encounter. Meanwhile, your story is just beginning. Everything that was stolen, delayed, or distorted is returning, but in higher form. The love you were denied will come, but this time it will be honest, aligned, and spiritually awake. The opportunities that slipped through your fingers before will reappear through doors no one can shut. And the recognition your soul has longed for won't come from the same hands that once rejected you. It will come from divine connections, people who see you clearly and meet you in purpose. You're not just being elevated, you're being established, and no one can shake what heaven builds. This is your confirmation. You're not crazy. You're not dramatic. You're not imagining the shift. What you're feeling is real. The containment spell is broken. The fog has lifted. And everything that was hidden is coming to the surface. The truth, the intentions, the consequences. Keep walking, keep trusting, keep listening to your spirit, because you're not just leaving a cycle. You're exiting a war zone you didn't even realize you were in. And what's waiting for you on the other side is not just healing, it's restoration, multiplied and magnified by the suffering you survived. What they tried to hold back in you is now exploding in waves, not of chaos, but of divine order. You are no longer operating within their limitations, and that terrifies them. You don't seek revenge. You don't plead for closure, and you don't announce your boundaries. You simply embody them. And that embodiment is so powerful, so disorienting to those who once fed off your confusion, that they're beginning to spiral in silence. They check for signs of you, but can't find access. They ask mutual friends about you, but pretend it's casual. They watch you glow from afar, and don't even recognize who you've become. Because the version of you they knew was a reflection of their own control. The version they see now is the result of divine liberation. When God breaks something, He doesn't just remove the obstacle, He removes your desire for what was attached to it. That's what's happening to you now. The longing is gone. The ache that used to live in your chest when you thought of them, it's been replaced by peace. And that peace is supernatural. It didn't come from a conversation or a reunion. It came from alignment, from choosing yourself, your healing, your God-given path. That's why they're drawn to you again, even if they can't say it out loud. Your frequency no longer feeds their illusion. It exposes it, and that's what their spirit can't escape. You are no longer the prey. You are the mirror. And mirrors, when held up to the unready, feel like fire. They underestimated what would happen once you remembered who you were. They thought the disconnection would break you, but it built you. They thought isolating you would silence you, but it refined your voice. They thought mocking you would shrink your spirit, but it activated your authority. What they failed to realize is that rejection was the final key. It unlocked the last piece of your destiny. And while they were celebrating your supposed downfall, heaven was repositioning you for divine acceleration. You didn't miss your moment. You were hidden. And now that you've emerged, you carry something that cannot be touched without permission. And that's what they're really mourning. Not the old connection, but the power they no longer have access to. And still, some will chase. Not physically, perhaps, but energetically. You'll feel them in dreams, in synchronicities, in random emotional waves that come from nowhere. That's not your imagination. That's spiritual residue, the imprint of souls who tasted your light but refused to honor it. They're still trying to tether themselves to your frequency through memory, through fantasy, through desperate longing. But that tether is breaking. You don't even have to fight it. Just stay in alignment, stay in truth, Stay with God. He's doing the severing. He's handling what your heart no longer needs to carry, because elevation requires space, and your spirit is expanding too fast to carry dead weight. There's a reason you feel clearer, lighter, more stable. It's not just because you've healed. It's because the interference has been removed. The psychic clutter, the energetic static, the voices that once echoed through your soul, making you doubt your vision, all of that is gone. You're finally able to hear God again without filters. You're finally able to feel your own voice again, strong, wise, whole. And in that clarity, you realize just how loud the noise was, just how much of your essence was being drained by people who didn't even value it. You didn't lose them. You were released, set free from an agreement your soul never made, but your trauma tolerated. And now, that contract is null and void. Watch closely in the coming days. Some of them will attempt one last pursuit, one last text, one last gesture of curiosity. But it's not real transformation. It's panic. It's the spirit trying to recreate a connection that's already been severed in heaven. And you'll feel it, not as temptation, but as disturbance. Because now, your nervous system knows the difference. Your body recognizes truth. Your soul detects falsehood instantly. And where you once would have questioned yourself, now you stand firm. You won't need to argue, explain, or prove anything. Your alignment will speak for you, and that silent authority will be your greatest protection. You've entered a new spiritual contract, one where your energy is no longer up for negotiation. You are the temple now. You are the sacred ground. And anyone who wishes to enter your life must come barefoot, with reverence, with truth. No more performance, no more spiritual codependency, no more unspoken power games. You've been delivered from all that. And in this new space, you're going to see doors open that were once sealed shut. Connections will emerge that match your depth, your pace, your vision. And those who only wanted your presence for their elevation, they will fall away, not because you rejected them, but because the frequency they carry can no longer survive in your field. This is where your real reward begins. You're not just being spiritually protected, you're being spiritually promoted. The realm of heaven has watched every tear you cried in silence, every moment you doubted yourself, every time you chose peace over pettiness. And now, the reward is not just elevation, but revelation. People will begin to see you as you are, not as they projected. Your presence will convict, not because you're harsh, but because you're honest. Your silence will echo louder than words, because your energy has been purified. You're no longer a soul begging to be understood. You're a force that commands respect without raising your voice. That's the justice. That's the prophecy unfolding in real time. Those who are meant to walk with you in this next season will not feel threatened by your power. They'll be inspired by it. They won't try to contain you, compete with you, or silence you. They will come in reverence, not worship, because they see the God with you, not just the glow on you. And those who can't handle that presence will naturally fall away. Let them. The ache you feel when they vanish is temporary. The protection you gain is eternal. You were never created to be dimmed just to be accepted. You were created to shine so brightly that only the healed can stand close. And now, that's exactly what you're doing. Don't look back. If this word has stirred your soul, sealed your healing, or confirmed what you've been sensing, drop the word untouchable in the comments right now. Declare it with boldness. Heaven has already written it. Now, let the earth echo it. And if this message spoke to you in the deepest parts, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and activate the notification bell. Because every time a new truth drops, I want your spirit to be the first to receive it. You've come too far to miss the next level. Stay connected. Stay awakened. And to all of you who have been supporting this channel through Buy Me a Coffee, thank you from the bottom of my heart. Your love and generosity help us keep creating these messages with the excellence. If you feel led to support us, the link is right there in the first pinned comment. And above all, never forget, you are not here to beg for light. You are the light. I'll see you in the next one. Stay bold, stay anchored, and stay extraordinary.